Hello everyone and welcome back to the F1 2014 SRL F1 Racing League. We're in Russia in Sochi for the fourth round of the season 2 that is, and we're just getting straight into it here in qualifying, looking at the pole lap of Dion Staal, who actually took pole position for this fourth round of the season. So now coming up to what is actually turn 2, shifting down into second gear, trying to not cut a corner too much. Actually he cut it a little bit, but it wasn't too bad, and luckily he didn't get a warning for that. Session time has now expired, so this is his final lap of this session, and he's currently in 7th place. So now braking down for turn 4, really taking a very good line through there, a lot of speed, green in the first sector split, now going down into 3rd gear for this right hander. He missed the apex just slightly, which will probably cost him about a tenth or two, as we now break down for this right hander again, back down to 3rd gear, really carrying a lot of speed through there. Now this left hander back down to 3rd gear, mounting the curb, they're going right over the curbs. This has been a pretty good lap so far. Now going right for this right turn, back to 3rd gear, a little bit of a track extender on the exit, but luckily didn't get a warning for it. Now opening the DRS for this back straight, as we are now ranging up to turn 11, a very hard braking point down after this back straight, and actually Dion Staal is actually going purple up until this stage, so it's looking very likely that he will get pole position if he can really finish this final sector very well. Now going down into 2nd gear for this really slow and technical section of the track, a little bit of a track extender on the exit of turn 13. Now the final 2 corners, back down into 3rd gear and going wide out over the curbs. Now the final corner, he actually has a massive track extend now coming onto the line, but it is good enough for pole position. So Dion Staal, the Dutchman, my compatriot, has taken pole position for this 4th round of season 2 of the SRL F1 League Championship. So the drivers are now waiting on the grid for the race to get underway. But before we get underway, let's take a quick look at yesterday's qualifying session. So Dion Staal took pole position, 2 tenths clear of Ben Ricchetty in 2nd place, and Fragas getting 3rd place, the Frenchman, with McKinn right behind him in 4th place. Mosqueda in 5th place, Dooley in 6th place, the Irishman Hef in 7th place. Random driver Brandt will start in 8th place, Yannick Verpeten in 9th place in the Williams, and finally with Wall of Steel completing the top 10 in qualifying. So here we are now on the grid, ready to start the race. We're now on board with Yannick Verpeten, aka VY Gaming, starting in 9th place. As the 5 lights are out and away we go, Verpeten puts his engine down into Lee Mix, now up into Ridge Mix again to get a good start. He's currently still in 9th place with Brandt in front of him. Now on board with Dion Staal coming into turn 1. Let's see if he can hold his lead into turn 2 is it actually, but he actually gets hit up the rear and he has to go straight on into turn 2, and now he's gonna lose the lead onto the Scottishman, who is now in front of him. Now looking on board with Sandro Dooley. Actually someone has gone off there into the outfield, as we're now on board with Dion Staal again. Someone is going up the inside of Dion Staal. He's been squeezed out wide, and now he's been hit by the Force Indian. Now he's been spun. Dion Staal has spun round and he's facing the wrong way, or he's trying to get it back going again. You've got a feel for the guy. He started from pole position, had really high hopes for this race, and now it is all gone after the first few corners, and he can start all over again in 10th place. So now let's look at the replay from Yannick Verpeten from what happened in his POV. So he's coming into turn 2 now. He takes an inside line behind Mosqueda there, and he now gets squeezed out by a Lotus. He gets shoved out wide, so that was very aggressive from the Danish rider there. So now coming into turn 4 it is, we have actually the Irishman Hef going up the inside of Dion Staal, I think it is. I can't really see it from back here, and there we see Dion Staal spinning out, facing the wrong way. That is really unfortunate for him. Now behind Pedro Mosqueda and Alex Ben Ricchetty, who actually goes wide there, and Pedro Mosqueda is actually fighting with Samuel Brandt there, the Danish rider, and he goes up the inside as Yannick Verpeten goes wide, and Alex Ben Ricchetty takes him back. So Yannick Verpeten is now back down into 8th position, still 1 position higher than where he qualified. So let's now take a look from the other onboard camera from Sandro Dooley. So he goes into turn 1, tries to slipstream a few cars as he almost hits the Mercedes there into turn 2 is it actually. I keep keep calling it turn 1. A lot of people do, but it is actually turn 2. But anyway, we're gonna focus on the race now. Actually, someone goes wide. We saw that in the live racing just a few seconds ago, and now Sandro de Ligt is up the inside of like 3 cars. He squeezes out of, well, he didn't really squeeze them out, but he just got kind of glued to the side pods of the other cars, and he kind of caused the incident that happened with Dion Staal and I believe another McLaren driver, but I couldn't see who it was. So now we're live in the race again, on board with Dion Staal. He's actually promoted up into 9th position as someone had to make a pit stop after the first lap. And now on board with Yannick Verpeten, who is currently in 8th position still on the 2nd lap. He goes a bit wide there onto that right-hander, but it didn't really hurt him that much. So yeah, the race is everyone has settled into that position, and the race has died down a little bit. Not much action is happening currently, apart from obviously that incident on the first lap. So yeah, VY Gaming, Yannick Verpeten, he's currently just enjoying himself in 8th position. And if you look at the sky there, it looks very threatening. It looks like there's maybe a possible chance of some rain in this race. Actually, there was a board or something, or a sign which was completely broken, so someone must have driven through that, maybe on the first lap. So yeah, Yannick Verpeten is now trying to close in on the car up front. I can't really see it from here who it is, but yeah, now coming through the final 2 corners, missing the apex there slightly. Maybe he needs to get used to the heavy fuel load in this 25% race. It's definitely a difference between qualifying and racing. So a little bit further up front we can see the onboard from Sandro de Ligt, who is currently going through this long left-hander, turn 3 it is, now going right for turn 4, and he's trying to close in on 2nd place, currently in 3rd position. So nothing much is going on currently, so I'm just gonna ramble on about a few things related to this SRL League. So it's actually quite funny because I've only been knowing this league for like the past few days. I think Aiden Noman actually commented on my video like, hey, are you interested in our league? And I was like, yeah, I am. I've never been in a league before, so I would have liked to race in your league. And that was like 3 days ago, and before that I'd never heard of the SRL F1 2014 league or something, and now I'm commentating their videos or their races. So that is actually quite funny. I actually haven't even done a race for this league. Today is the first race. It's Saturday today, the 26th of August. So it's currently around 12 p.m. So in about 6.5 hours time we'll be doing the race in Spain, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really interested in how quick I am compared to these guys. There is a bit of a difference because I'm on the wheel. I'm using the Logitech Driving Force GT, while most of the guys in this league, as far as I know, are using just the regular DualShock 3 controller. So as you guys will probably know, wheel users in F1 2014 do have a slight issue, and that is traction. If you're using a wheel in F1 2014, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you never used the wheel, you really don't know how it's like, especially in the rain. It is so treacherous when you're driving with a wheel with no traction control in the rain. And when I try the pad, I have amazing traction. It is just a different game you're playing compared to the wheel. So that is, I'm slightly worried about that maybe other guys are quicker than me just purely because I'm on the wheel. But anyway, it is how it is, and maybe if I can prove that I'm quicker even on the wheel, it would be very nice. But I think both have their both of their disadvantages and advantages. I think the wheel might be better in high-speed corners, and especially in quick direction changes, because with a wheel you can just quickly make corrections or quickly go from left to right. While with a controller you have to, there's kind of a delay and kind of a sort of an input lag, and yeah, which may hinder you a little bit when you're using the controller. So yeah, in terms of practice, I haven't practiced much for this race today in Spain, purely because I didn't really have a lot of time for it to do. I've only practiced yesterday a few laps in time trial. Started out in the Caterham with no setup and managed to do a 126.3 P3 I think it was, and then I just wanted to see how quick I could go if I was in the fastest car, the Mercedes, with a setup on, and I managed to do a 1:21.1, which gets me in the top 200 in the world leaderboards. But actually, Yannick Verpeten is now coming into the pits. As I'm rambling, I didn't even notice, because the rain is now coming down. So Yannick Verpeten goes into the pits, and I'm almost certain he's going to put a set of intermediate tires on. So let's see. Going from the mediums, yes indeed, he goes to the intermediate tires. So that is a very risky strategy from Yannick Verpeten, the Belgium driver in the Williams, because it doesn't look very wet at this moment. I mean, I see a few raindrops, but it doesn't look like the track is wet enough for intermediate tires. So they may overheat a little bit, but we'll see. Maybe it works out. If it works out, it will be a very good strategy call from Yannick Verpeten. He currently goes through turn 2 and 3, and it looks like he is struggling for grip, so that is not a good sign for Yannick Verpeten. Now on board with Sandro De Lee, and he's actually decided to stay out as he puts his engine down into lead mix. It looks like the rain is coming down pretty hard at the moment as he loses a position to the McLaren driver there. Can't really see who it is, but yeah, he is really struggling for grip on this soft tire. You really need to come in for a set of inters. So the rain is coming down pretty hard now, and I think this is going to work for Yannick Verpeten, because his tires are now up to temperature and he can start pushing again, while other drivers, including Sandro De Lee, is still out on slick tires, and you can see how much he is struggling. So now on board with the Dutchman Dion Staal, who started from pole position in this race, remember. And just like Sandro De Lee, you can see that he's really struggling on those option tires. The Scottishman Francis now goes around the outside of him, as clean as you like in the Mercedes. Francis already made his pit stop to intermediate tires, and you can just see how much more grip Francis has on those tires. So I'm almost certain Dion Staal is going to come in on this lap, and he does. So I assume he will put on a set of intermediate tires, although if he's going to take a very big risk, he may go to the full wet tires, although I don't really see that happening. So Dion Staal is coming in now to the pits, and yes, he does strap on a set of intermediate tires. So Dion Staal now to the intermediate tires as well. I think pretty much the entire field has changed onto intermediate tires at this phase of the race. So yeah, Dion Staal now rejoins the track in 8th position. Looks like no one is around him, so he'll have some clean air in front of him, with Yannick Verpeten behind him in 9th place. So lap 7 of the race now. Let's see if those intermediate tires will grip into the road. He misses the apex there a little bit into turn 2. So is that down to Dion Staal just making a little mistake, or is it down to the intermediate tires not really gripping in? We'll have to wait and see about that one, as we now brake for turn 4, and Dion Staal actually takes it really well there, really clipping the apex of the corner and then going out wide over the curb. So it looks like the intermediate tires is the right tire to be on at this stage of the race. So now let's look at a little replay on board with Sandro De Lee. He actually goes a little bit wide there into turn 6, I think it was, and Pedro Mesquida now overtakes him in the McLaren. So Sandro De Lee is now trying to get the position back, although Pedro really blocks him off very nicely as we now brake for turn 8, I think it is. Really taking it very well there, Sandro De Lee, and now he's in a slipstream of Pedro Mesquida, and he picks up the DRS. Can he overtake him around the outside? I think he can, although there is a big braking zone coming up and Mesquida might be able to get him back, but no, Sandro De Lee, he brakes very late, goes a little bit wide, but he maintains the position. So it looks like he is currently up into... No, he's not, because Pedro Mesquida goes back very aggressively up the inside. They touch a little bit, but Sandro De Lee has the inside for the next corner, and he maintains. And now a lap later, Sandro De Lee goes wide again, and Pedro Mesquida is trying to overtake him now on the straight, and he actually already has him before the DRS is even open. So Pedro Mesquida now up a position, and now we're back live in action on board with Dion Staal. He now comes in for his set of intermediate tires on lap 7, and he is currently in 5th position. Oh, sorry, this is Sandro De Lee, not Dion Staal. I saw a Ferrari in cockpit cam and I thought it was Dion, but of course it's Sandro De Lee, so apologies for that. Now on board with Yannick Verpeten. in 9th position. He is currently on the intermediate tires on lap 8, but the track actually looks really wet, so it might be time for full wet tires as he locks up a little bit coming into this final sector. So is Yannick Verpeten going to be the first one on the full wet tires? Let's wait and see. I think he will. Yes, he is. He does come into the pit. So Yannick Verpeten is the first one to go onto a set of full wet tires. Will it work out? The track looks very wet. But is it wet enough for wet tires, or are the intermediate tires still the better tire to be on? We'll have to wait and see on that one. We'll probably know after a few seconds. So Yannick Verpeten now comes into the pits to the full wet tires. He's still in 9th position, and he rejoins the track now on lap 9. It seems like no one is really around him, so he has some clean air in front of him and also no pressure from behind. So yeah, he rejoins the track now, and he is actually using the controller for this race, and I think that is a very wise decision, because I know he uses the Logitech Driving Force GT wheel, but as you'll probably know, in F1 2014 the traction while using a wheel is absolutely ridiculous, and especially in the wet. So very wise decision from Yannick here to use the controller, as now a few laps later Dion Staal goes wide there, and he is dropped down into 9th position. Yannick Verpeten promoted to P8 on lap 10, and that is very interesting. Is Dion Staal actually on the full wet tires? Let's look at the replay. No, he isn't. He is still out on the intermediate tires, and the full wet tires are really the tire to be on, as Yannick shows here. He just overtakes him like he's not even there really. So Dion Staal is struggling at this phase of the race, now behind Samuel Brandt, and he is going very slowly on the intermediate tires as well. He he doesn't have anything against Yannick Verpeten on those full wet tires. So Yannick really made the right strategy call here by going on to the full wet tires early, respective to the rest of the field. So Yannick Verpeten now up into P7 on lap 11. Now on board with Dion Staal. He is made his pit stop to the full wet tires. He is now in 9th position as he cuts the corner there, and he gets a penalty for it. So that is very interesting. He gets a 10-second penalty, which will be added at the end of the race. So yeah, Dion Staal getting a penalty for corner cutting. He has to watch out for that later on in the race, because if he cuts another corner he may get another penalty. As we now see Sandro De Lee, he gets overtaken by someone, and I can't see it. I can't see who it is from back here. It might be Pedro Mesquida. As no, it's not. I think it's Andrew Heff, the Irishman. I think I saw an Irish flag, but apologies if I'm wrong. But in the rain with the spur and everything, it's very difficult to see who is who. So I think it's Andrew Heff who is now overtaken him, but Sandro De Lee fights back in the braking zone there. He squeezes him out wide, and Heff will have the inside for the next corner, but he backs out of it as the door closes. So Sandro De Lee, I think he's now up into P3 on lap 11 of 13. So it will be interesting to see if he can hang on to this podium position. And yeah, Sandro De Lee is also, I think the entire field is now on the full wet tires. So yeah, that is interesting to note as well. As we now open up lap 12, Sandro De Lee puts his engine up into rich mix to defend from the Mercedes behind him. As the Mercedes driver, I think it is Francis McKinn, but I'm not sure, so apologies again if I get it wrong. But the Mercedes is now trying around the outside into turn 2, but Sandro has the inside, although he outbrakes himself, and the Mercedes driver might get him back around the outside, and he does, but Sandro De Lee has the inside for this long turn 3 left-hander, and it is Francis McKinn. I see a Scottish flag, so it must be Francis, and Francis now gets the position back as Sandro De Lee touched him a little bit there, I think, and Francis McKinn goes wide, and they touch, and Sandro is in the wall. Sandro De Lee is in the wall, and oh, that is very unfortunate for him on lap 12 of 13. He's trying to get it back going again. So both the Ferraris has spun on the same corner, I think. It was kind of you know, of course, Dion Staal spun on this corner as well on the first lap. So at least I believe it was that corner. But Sandro De Lee, he has lost his front wing on lap 12 of 13. So he'll probably have to make an extra pit stop at the end of this lap. So that is really unfortunate for him. Very unlucky there for the Greek driver. So Now on board with Yannick Verpeten, he is catching up to Sandro De Lee, of course, really struggling without that front wing. So it will be almost certain that Yannick Verpeten is gonna go through on the Greek driver here, and Sandro De Lee goes very wide there. We will probably have to give 7th position to Yannick Verpeten, or 6th position I mean. So Yannick Verpeten now up into 6th position on lap 12 of 13. So after having a very lonely race, Yannick Verpeten, he is now gaining a few positions as people make mistakes. So yeah, Yannick Verpeten up into P6 after being in P9 for pretty much the entire race. So yeah, that is very interesting. Now on board with Dion Staal again as he comes through the final corner, and he actually cuts it again and he gets a 2nd penalty. So that is 20 seconds that will be added up to his name at the end of the race. So he'll really have to watch out for that. As Yannick Verpeten now starts the final lap of the race, putting his engine down into lean mix as he is in optimal fuel. So he can afford to use maybe rich mix or standard mix, but he has no one behind him, so he doesn't really have any pressure from that, as Dion Staal cuts the 2nd corner and he gets another penalty for that. So that is 3 10-second penalties to his name, and you really have to be careful now, because if he cuts another corner he may get disqualified. So yeah, Dion Staal really needs to look out for corner cutting for the rest of this race. So now on the final lap, Marcos Frares, the French rider, has won the race, and I believe this was his first ever SRL race. So yeah, congratulations to Marcos Frares, but we're not done yet, as Yannick Verpeten is currently in 6th position. He has no one ahead of him or behind him, so it looks like he will just drive home a solid point scoring position as we now come through the final sector of the race. He's an optimal fuel in lean mix, so he won't run out of fuel, which is a good thing, of course. As we now just complete the final couple of corners, we are now coming through the penultimate corner here, back down into 3rd gear, now accelerating, going wide out over the curbs. Now the final corner of the track, hitting the curb, and that is P6 for Yannick Verpeten, as we now see Sandro De Lee coming over the line for, I think it was P9, as we now see Dion Staal coming through the final corner. He cuts it again, he gets a 4th penalty of the race, 40 seconds worth of penalty for Dion Staal. He was really lucky to not get disqualified, by the way, but I think Dion Staal will finish in 10th place. Yeah, yes he does, there's a confirmation. So 1 point for Dion Staal here in this 4th race of the season. So Marcos Frares, the Frenchman, has won the race, with Pedro Mesquida in 2nd place and Alex Benaricchetti in 3rd. So yeah, that's your podium for the 4th round of the season. We have Francis McKinn in 4th place, Andrew Heff in 5th place, Yannick Verpeten in 6th place, Sandro De Lee in 7th, Samuel Brandt in 8th place, Wall of Steel in 9th, and then finally Dion Staal completes the top 10 in 10th position, obviously. So that's been the race for the Russian Grand Prix in the SRL F1 League Championship, and here we can see the race winner, Marcos Frares, celebrating his first ever victory in this SRL Championship. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll just leave you with the final celebrations for Marcos Frares. So to round out this video, here we can see the race results. I already ran through it, so I'm not going to do that again. And here we can see the drivers' standings. We see Alex Benaricchetti on top of the table with 73 points. Pedro Mesquida behind him in 2nd place with 59 points. Then in 3rd place, Francis McKinn with 53. Sandro De Lee in 4th place with 50 points. Samuel Brandt in 5th place with 44 points, then Wall of Steel with 29, then Yannick Verpeten with 28, then Marcos Frares with 25, then Dion Staal with 24, then Eden Neumann with 12, Andrew Heff with 12, then the Russian driver Game with 12 points as well, then the Swiss driver Goodknecht with 1 point, and then we have the 3 Americans McLaren, Spencer and Slavosky with no points so far this season. So that should wrap things up for this 4th round of the season in Russia for the SRL F1 Racing League. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.